Okay, it's day 162, part one. And yesterday, when I had heard that I was being accused of destroying these hard drives, a lot of viewers just said, hey, just go to the episode where you react to Andre Taggart's interview, which I am doing here. And I'm in front of the Heritage Foundation on Pennsylvania Avenue. But I started thinking about this whole chain of events, and for some reason, I thought of Belgium. Because I would have had to, this attack on this Belgian fort, I would have had to hang glide into Clarksburg, West Virginia to get the hard drives. And I would have had to bust in, like the Germans did at this one attack of this Belgian fort, which was in Belgium. And I had visited Belgium at this fort, and here's the gliders that Hitler used. And it was supposed to be this triangular, impregnable fort. But it made me think of this woman that was killed by Saipov, that run over by the bikes in Chelsea. I thought of Belgian Belle because it was the fort was named Ibn Emmanuel. So Emmanuel, I thought of it as a movie I saw in college. And then I thought it was Abel, Ebel. And for some reason, I thought of this woman who had gotten run over. She was the only Belgian woman that was run over. Here's the fort over here, the triangular fort. Here's the gliders that Hitler used to take over the fort. But I thought, well, is this a senseless murder by Saipov, or was there something more to this story? Why would this Belgian Belle be run over? And I thought immediately of the fact her parents seemed to be in the animal pharmaceuticals business. And this triggered my memory because the animal pharmaceuticals business was what they were using in Montreal to repill animal pharmaceuticals for the soldiers for NATO in Canada, in Montreal. I thought, well, if you're going to do it in a French-speaking large city in a NATO city in Canada, would you do the same thing at the NATO headquarters? So anyway, here's my conversation with Luke Rosiak. And there's a lot of videos where I talk about the hard drives, and I just don't think I would talk that much about the hard drives if I had actually destroyed them. But this thought of this Belgian Belle kept coming back in my head, and it's like, what the heck is going on? And now you can see here that I'm going through all the different Andre Taggart stories I've done. So I don't think anybody really believes that I destroyed the hard drives. And even Andre Taggart in his interviews says that he didn't. But I remembered that this uranium yellow cake trade, and a lot of it went to Belgium. And John Solomon had talked about this. And I thought, well, I had proposed to Cy Hirsch that the uranium trade was a cover for weapons and arms for all over the Middle East. How about NATO? How about different places where we were trying to cause revolution in NATO? And how about the whole Muslim invasion of NATO? So I just got to start thinking about, well, if I'm going to use Saipov and bring in him and 19 of his friends and have 6 or 7 or I think maybe 20 different companies with chain migration and the lottery type migration here for terrorism. Would this explain a lot of the terrorist rundowns in Europe as well? There seemed to be a lot of commonness here. And I also remember being in Chelsea, right where she was run over, not only when I talked about Cy Hirsch, and Cy Hirsch had turned down the story of this kind of Awan Contra, but I was there about 2 months later with my kids in Central Park, and we'd walked down to Times Square, and I was at this place where she was run down again when I heard that there was a rundown in Times Square, I think around August the 16th. So I'd just been down to Chelsea here twice. These were 2 big days for me. One was because I thought my kids were getting run over in Times Square. The other one was, getting turned down by Cy Hirsch and talking about John Podesta's artwork in Switzerland, which I thought was kind of a breakthrough. And the place where Saipov ran this woman down was literally steps away from where I was. And I had been to Belgium in 2010. And I had visited the police that worked with Interpol, 2 top police officers, and they had gotten money from the FBI to do counterterrorism. They had bought a very fast speedboat and a very fast helicopter plane. It could fly the speed of a plane, this helicopter. And Obama had taken a ride on the helicopter and a ride on the boat, and then he had gone down to this place, this farmland called West Vertland, where they had this special beer. So Obama wanted to get this special beer, and we went down there to try it. You have to big, long waiting line. It was this Trappist monk beer, reminded me of Doug. Maybe that's what keyed my mind on this Trappist monk beer. That Doug Gabriel was a monk, I think a Trappist monk at one time. And so I remember all the animal pharma. I remember it was kind of like an animal pharma research area. And the city I think she's from, the Belgian belle here who was killed, was from Stad or Staden, which had a very German-sounding name. And I remember all the names in Western Belgium. They speak this kind of more Dutch-like language and have kind of German names. And I thought of Staden, and I thought of this animal pharma operation, and I think it's a pretty big operation in Staden. And I just remember this whole Germanic influence there, kind of like a holdover from, hey, we conquered your biggest fort. We still get to infiltrate into Western Belgium, and we still, Antwerp is the major port that it doesn't go all the way to Brussels, but I've been to Brussels and Bruges. I think it may go down to Bruges on the river from Antwerp. And I just started thinking about all this, thinking back on this 2010 trip I made. There was all these gypsies that had come in and kind of descended on this town in Western Belgium by the border. And these guys, these top cops of Belgium were working on that problem. And I said, well, it just looks like they're got a whole bunch of kids. It seems like they're rounding up a whole bunch of kids, and now they're ready to go back home. I remember saying that to them, and they said that's a huge problem in Europe. The gypsies go through, do these things. Well, anyway, the bottom line is Sarkozy ended up flying all the gypsies home, and the news only said they flew 80 or so people, gypsies, home, but I remember the plane being full. I remember the top cops telling me that they went home and the plane was full, like 325 people. So all the kids went with them. And, I thought, wow, this is perfect for drugs. And it just seemed like the whole thing fit together, and I wanted to do a video on it. No, I didn't fly in with a glider like Hitler's gliders into Clarksburg to get into the FBI vault, to get Andre Taggart's drives, to destroy those drives. No, I didn't. Imran Awan's drives. But I do think those Imran Awan drives did manage the trade in NATO, in yellow cake as the cover, for drugs and weapons, not only for the Middle East, but also for Belgium and Brussels. And I'll add one thing, this SES person that went over from Customs and Border Protection, she went to Brussels Customs. So it's just another reminder of this potential Awan-Contra